Tonight, we're going to start out with land use controls. And land use controls is, we have two different types. We have public controls and we have private controls. Do any of you live in a community that has a homeowners association? Right? Some of you live there. And when you moved in, didn't you have to sign a document that says I'll abide by the covenants and restrictions and the CC&Rs, right? So that is private controls. That means that they can't, maybe you can't put horses on the property. Maybe you can't park commercial vehicles on that property. Maybe all your front doors have to be the same color. Whatever they put in there, whatever was in the master deed that says, this is what we want. Maybe there's no on-street parking. Maybe everything has to be in the driveway. Things of that nature, right? So those are all restrictions that are private because they only account for your community. The two communities on either side of you, two communities over on either side of you will, they don't have to abide by yours. So private restrictions are just your community inside your gates, okay? Public restrictions are what your township or your county or whatever puts on your land, puts on the land. Where's the commercial vehicle? Where's the commercial property going to go? What is going to be residential property? How big of a lots do they have to have in this particular area? Where's going to be green space? Where's going to be agricultural space? Do we have that? So this is given to your counties. Now, public zoning is always done on a local level. It is not done by the state. It is done on a local level. Now, building codes are done by the state for safety, but zoning is done locally. County, city, all right? All these things are part of that, all right? County and city. So we're going to talk about those. So we went to, as far as both of those go. Now, and I'm giving you the first slide here. Here is the important part of, all right, so public is public zoning, all right, land use controls are government control, local, city, right? Your county, they do it, okay? Private is your HOA codes. These are not governmental. These are what you locally put on there, what you agreed to when you moved into your community, all right? And they don't overlap other communities. They're for you. Now, the red writing here on the bottom, incredibly important. All right. Both are important. However, when there is a conflict between the public controls and the private controls, the tougher laws abide. So whichever one is tougher is the one that will be followed. Sometimes it's the county, sometimes it's not. Okay, sometimes it's the county, sometimes it's not. So the stricter rule always abides. All right, whatever one it is. It's usually going to be the CC&Rs in your community will probably be tougher than the county. Usually, doesn't always happen that way, but yes. Okay. So these are private restrictions and public restrictions, but remember, stricter rule overrides. Yeah. Okay. So let's start in the county. Let's start at the county. The state gives the county the ability to use police power to establish health, safety, welfare, zoning, right? Environmental controls, all of those things through what's called the Enabling Acts. The Enabling Acts gives these municipalities the right to govern and as they see fit, right? Particularly when it comes to this police power, all right? So sanitation, health, welfare, safety, environmental protections, things of that nature, all those things I mentioned before, they all fall under police power. They have the ability to control those. And the enabling acts, what North Carolina said they could use to do it. That's what gave them the power. All right. And here they are listed out, all right, the types of different police powers. Planning, How do they want their county land? If I'm going to start a new city, let's say I'm going to start a small little town. Do I want to have some organization, some structure, some community? What if I'm going to have a little community, but I want it to be, I want it to have movie theaters, and I want it to have houses, many houses, and I want it to have a shopping center, and I got to lay those out, right? I have to put them in there. What about traffic flow? How do I do that, right? So all of those things have to be planned out, and they have to be approved. If I have a 2-lane roadway, 2-lane road, and I have 200 acres of land, and I want to build houses on that 200 acres of land on 1/5 of an acre zoning. So that means I want to put 1,000 houses in that 200 acres. Would I need to figure out how I'm going to get into that community and how I'm going to get out of that community? Probably I'm going to need to work with the township, right? Would I need to figure out how to get up and down this 2-lane road? What's the traffic going to be? Do I need a traffic light, right? So we have to structure this. Maybe we need to put another entrance in. So what's the plan looks like? What does this all look like? Am I going to put a gas station somewhere? I don't know. Maybe I need a convenience store. Maybe I need a, some sort of 7-Eleven store or something of that nature. What do I need? And what's allowed, right? What's allowed? Okay. So that's plan. We have to draw that plan up. And then we have to check for zoning. Where am I allowed to put commercial space? Where am I allowed to put agricultural space? What if I have wetlands? Can I do anything with wetlands? Hardly. Not without a big mess of, doing a whole bunch of repair. Usually if I take an acre of wetlands, I got to replace it with 5 acres of something else. Again, is that even if they'll let me do it? So it's not particularly easy to do. All right. So all those things fall into the zones, and I'll show you the zoning map when we get there. I'll show you Brunswick counties. I have them up. All right. The third one here, subdivision regulations. Can there even be a subdivision there? How big does it have to be? What's the minimum structures that can be there? How big of a lot can they put on there? Does it have to be 7,500 square feet of lot? Can it be 5,000 square feet of lot? Does it have to be, if it's 1 acre zoning, it's got to be 48,000 square feet of lot? Well, that's what the zoning is, right? So what's my regulations? Do I have to do impact studies? If I built 1,000 houses on that lot, is there going to be an environmental impact? I would say there's going to be an environmental impact. What happens, and here's one that we don't even think about. What happens when it rains? When it rains, where does the water go? What used to be absorbed into the ground now hits what? Hit road surface and houses. That water drains differently. I got to figure out where that water is going to go. I can surely bet that I won't have good neighbors if my 1,000 house runoff goes into the neighborhoods on each side of me, and now every time it rains, they get flooded. I'm pretty sure I'm going to spend time in front of a judge somewhere along the line, right? So environmental impacts. Who lived there? We had a big thing down here. This roadway that they wanted to put in went right through a forest so much that had a black bear community. These black bears, and I think the population might have been 25 to 30, held this road up for 3 years, trying to get an environmental protection and impact study and everything else. So as a builder, as a developer, you got to know what this is. And can you do it? Can you do it? Can you put the road in? What is it going to cost me? How much per house do I have to put as an environmental impact fee? Some cases it's in the few thousand, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. I know in our county that I live in now, they wanted to bump it up to over $5,000 for the impact fees. They cut it down to $2,000, and that's what they're paying. So $2,000 out of every house that's sold is going for a local impact. They wanted to make it $5,000, right? You got to put schools in. I put 1,000 houses in. Do I need school space? Probably, right? Do I need a hospital? Do I need more police? What about a fire station, right? If I have 1,000 houses, I better be pretty close to a fire station, though, I would say. So things that you don't think about, things in the peripheral, we need to know about all those. And that's why we have subdivision regulations. Now, building codes are safety, period. And that's why you need permits. And building codes come from the state. The state sets the standard for the building codes, okay? State sets that standard. And that is for safety. And everything should be permitted. And if it's not permitted, you need to let people know it's not permitted. And we'll talk about that when we get into chapter 7. They put a deck on, they didn't get a permit. The county has a right to come in and tell you to tear it down without a permit. It might not be safe, right? So there are some things about it. And we talked about environmental protection legislation. You know, you hear about them all the time. Black bears, spotted owls, any kind of hawks, things of that nature. They're going through, finding it. And you folks have a bunch of it up there, right? What do we do? We can't just tear down every tree. You know, what lives there? How can we make it, you know, friendly, right? So environmental protections. Okay, I want to build a new community. And my community, I got to build a master plan. I got to put together a master plan. I got to say, all right, what do I want? In my head, what am I looking for? How much space do I have? So I'm going to get a survey to survey the land. I'm going to get an engineer to see what I can do with this land. I'm going to get an architect to draw out plans for this land. But I need the zoning commission. I need the local community boards to help me out, right? So there's 4 things here, 5 things here that we're going to need to talk about, right? Land use. How can we use this land? Can I build houses on it? Maybe it's commercial. Maybe it's agricultural. Maybe I can't build houses on it at all. Never know. Public facilities. Am I going to put a bowling alley here? Am I going to put a movie theater here? Is it allowed? It's commercial property? I don't know. I have to check those things out, right? I have to go to the plan. How do I get traffic around? In this particular case, we need to get people in and out. So you can see in this drawing here that we have a couple of circles here, right? So hopefully we have slow down access to in here. Now, if they were coming in off the main road and flying through this intersection, we might have a pretty good accident, won't we? So traffic circles count as a deterrent. Doesn't slow it down everybody, but at the good folks, it will, right? So that's one of those things that you got to look for. And then our layout, okay? Conservation of natural resources. How much green space? We don't live in New York City. We don't live in the Bronx. We don't live downtown Charlotte. We want some green space. And even in downtown Charlotte, you can find green space, right? So we need some place to just go and get some fresh air, right? Not everything's the city. Now, also, if I'm going to find all these things in here, I'm kind of figuring there's going to be a lot of people in here. If I was a community on the outside here, would I want to be, I don't want to hear your business. I want quiet. So we're going to have to look at noise abatement, right? How do we build enough berms, or how do we put up trees, or do we have to put up walls to keep the noise down, right? Contain some of the noise, buffer some of the noise. We put up buffer zones. We have to look at that. How much noise is it going to be? We had a community not too far from me that built houses on Big Block Road, and they built literally a couple of thousand houses on Big Block Road, but they built them all on the left side, because on the right side of Big Block Road, you want to bet that they had a cement factory. They made cement fixtures. Do you think it was noisy over there? It was extremely noisy over there, but you want to buy a house, you got to know what it is. So they made them stop. The block company couldn't build after 11 o'clock. They couldn't run trucks before 7. So there was a lot of discussion about what they could do or what they could not do. But the name of the road was Big Block Road. You would have thought that would have been the first clue that you would have gotten, was the fact that something here is not, there's something different here. Big block road. All right. So we have, the purpose is to regulate and control this use. We don't want craziness, right? We don't want every acre of land in our little township to be commercial, nor do we want it to be agricultural. We want a mixed use community. How much we need to lay it out, right? So all zoning is local in nature. It's all local in nature, all right? So there's no statewide standard that says you need this. Everything is what the community says, right? Now, let's say we live close to Wilmington, but we live on the outskirts of Wilmington, right? Leyland, we head up towards, we head east towards Topsail and that kind of area. Well, when I have that jurisdiction, let's say I work in, I'm a commissioner for Leyland, right? And I'm close enough to Wilmington, and they have a good set of rules that I could adapt Wilmington's rules. And then I would just become an extraterritorial jurisdiction. So basically, I am the mayor of Wilmington adjacent, if you will. We're going to follow their rules and their laws. They have good ones, right? They can support us if we need it. So those are called extraterritorial jurisdictions, ETJs, all right? Extraterritorial jurisdictions. So these are outside the limits, but still under their zoning controls. Their zoning, I don't have a zoning department. They have 400 people working for their zoning department. Maybe we could use them, save us some money, right? So that is something that we would call an ETJ. Okay, now we cannot violate property owner rights. We can't go over the lines, right? We have ownership. I can't just automatically take 50 acres of agricultural field and say we're going to build houses on it. Because if I'm going to take property under what? Eminent domain and the act of condemnation, if I'm going to take private property, I have to do it for the public good. Adding 50 houses is not the public good, right? Maybe if I needed a medical facility that there's not one for 25 miles or 50 miles, maybe I might get away with that. But until then, no. All right. So individual property, right? I have property. You can't just take my yard. You can't take my house. Right. So we have rights. Now, red star there on the bottom. This is important. If you are in a zone that has to be disclosed, all right, you know that there's going to be a zoning change. Let's say we have, let me use a good example. I bought a house and I have a half acre. So it would be an R20, which means I have 20,000 square feet of yard. Okay. So that means there's 2 houses on an acre. And I'm the real estate agent and I know, so that's a nice sized community. Those are nice pieces of property. But I just heard that all of the lots in the front of our community are now going to go to R10 or R7500. And that means that those lots can be 7,500 square feet or less, or more rather. So that's 5 houses to an acre instead of 2. Now, if somebody was coming in, let's say Anastasia's coming in and buying a house. She sees the houses in the back on 2 half-acre lots, and I'm her agent. Shouldn't I tell her that the ones in the front, the density is going to be what? A lot tighter, right? It's not going to be as wide. We're going to get 5 houses on an acre versus 2 houses on an acre. That's a material fact. Otherwise, she's not going to, she might not want it. Maybe she's got 3 big dogs and 4 kids, and she wants the kids to have a little bit of a yard, right? I'll tell you what, it'll be a little bitty yard if she gets it on a 1/10 of an acre, right? Or 1/5 of an acre. That's a small piece of property. And if she puts the house on it, can she put the house she wants on it? So those are things that the real estate agent, the broker, is going to be responsible for. Any changes in this, any changes in these laws And you got to keep abreast of where you're going. You'll see the little signs that says a hearing is coming for this to make these changes. All right. You got to stay on top of them. Right. If you're going to sell property there, you got to give them all of it. That's a material fact. And when we get into chapter 7, we'll talk a lot about material facts. Okay. Talk a lot about material facts. Okay. All right. Instead of me showing you what zoning classifications look like in Mesa, Arizona, which is where this one is, let me show you something from the real world. Before we go, this is Brunswick County, North Carolina. And this is all the different types of zones that they have in Brunswick County. RR, low, rural, low density. Now, all you got to do is go out and county business codes, zoning codes, and you'll get all this information. Much like I showed you how to find information on houses and legal descriptions and everything else. This is all public knowledge, right? So medium density residential is R7500, high density R6000, which is even smaller, right? Site built residential, SBR, so you can see that. Then they have commercial districts, low density, neighborhood commercials, right? Industrials, rural, industrial general, military installations, right? Conservation and protection, we have that type of special purposes. And then we have overlay districts, and we're going to talk about overlay districts here. If I am in an R7500, and I'm also in a floodplain, am I in an overlay district? Yeah, the floodplain overlays whatever the other zone is, right? So in this particular case, economic development, maybe we can build plan development, transitional offices. This has to do with building out commercial areas. What type of commerce can be in there? Water quality protection. Could be runoffs, right? We could be up against what type of runoffs. All right. So you can go out there and check, and these are all of those. But what does that look like on a map? It looks like this. This is the this is the Brunswick County zoning map. And they give you a color key, right? They actually tell you what area these are all in, Caswell Beach, and then Southport. Right down here is... down here on the bottom is Southport, right there in that little circle. So you can see where all of these different things are. The blue is residential property, right? And now it's blue, but different shades, right? Because it could have different sizes of lots. It's still residential, all right? The purple is multifamily. The green is rural, agricultural, and conservation. See all the conservation area, right? Gray would be industrial. Red and orange is commercial, all right? Depending on the size of the commercial and how long. All right, more commercial along these roads here. All right, industrial is gray, and then yellow is other. Right? Yellow is other. This is shipping, actually. By the time you get up to Cape Fear, you are into that shipping zone right up in here, right? So this is what their zoning map looks like. And we can dive way down into this, right? Kind of give you an idea of what this would look like. Right. And they got it broken down by block. So just to show you what Southport is and how it's all broken up, this is the neighborhood, right? But each one of these little sections, when you go to develop these properties, you need to come and look at this map. You have to find out what I can do with it. Okay, what size of residential can I get to? Where do I need? What's going to be conservation? What's going to be commercial out here? All right, you have to share with this. All right, you need to be able to get that. Okay, and that's your zoning districts, really. That's what's going to happen in every county. All 100 of them has one. What's going to happen in our county? Now, you can see that inside of when we went to Southport, right? Inside that city, they have their own little sections there too. And it's broken down. All right. So that is all of those little vignettes that are inside here. So when we're laying out this land, we need to know this. This is going to be very, very we're going to be very important to us that we know where these things are, what we can do and where we can do it. Residential, commercial, industrial, agricultural. Those are the 4 key ones, and then different levels of such inside. You notice that they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different residential zones here, different colors, right? And they're all kinds. Just look at the keys. Just look at the keys. Let's talk about some terminology here. The first thing we're going to talk about is a legal non-conforming use. And this usually is grandfathered in. So let me show you what I mean by that. I have, let's say this is Highway 17. All right, this is Highway 17 going up the coast. And this is getting to be an old neighborhood. And let's say that, sadly, New Bern, folks familiar with New Bern? A lot of traffic's been diverted around New Bern, right? A lot of it's been diverted around New Bern. So let me make up a story to kind of use New Bern as a focal point. So all of this was commercial. All right, this is all a commercial zone. And on the corner here, we had our Circle K. We had that Circle K. Well, all of these buildings ended up empty. But the Circle K was still pretty viable. So somebody went in there and bought that property and went to the zoning department and said, I would like to change that zoning to residential. And the zoning department said, all right, we're going to let you do that. And then the owner of that Circle K said, whoa, 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 whoa. Wait a minute. We still got a pretty good business here. So what are you going to do with us? Well, what they'll do is they're going to make this as residential. And as long as it stays a Circle K, okay, this will be a legal non-conforming use. All right, so legal non-conforming. That's what that Circle A will say. So it's going to stay as a Circle K. They can't change the use. They can keep it safe. They can modernize it a little bit. They can't expand it. But that is now a non-conforming use, a legal non-conforming use in this residential neighborhood. Okay? So they're going to let that go. They're going to say, okay. Now, if grandma has a property back here and she sells tapestries, sells quilts, okay, in this residential zone, and this is grandma's quilts, is she allowed to sell those quilts in that residential zone? No, it's not commercial. Now the Circle K was there before, and they were given permission to stay as a legal non-conforming zone. Grandma is not allowed to have a commercial business in this zone. Therefore, she would be an illegal use. She would be an illegal use, all right? And she cannot sell them there. She would have to get an off-site property. So this would be grandfathered in because they were already there. You can't just start up a new business, all right? You wouldn't be allowed to do that. All right, so that would be legal non-conforming use. You're going to be allowed to continue, but you're not allowed to make many improvements. You got to keep it safe, but you can't expand. You can't, make it, you can't change it over to a Buc-ee's or something like that. It's going to stay say Circle K or a Wawa. All right. It's going to stay that. All right. And if a hurricane blows it down, it's going to stay down. That's it. All right. But an illegal use says that you can't just come in here and build that. It's not zoned for that. All right. So it's a misdemeanor too, by the way. It's against the law. Red star here. Seller buys non-conforming property. That was never legal. That remains an illegal use if he continues to operate as non-conforming. So just by selling it doesn't mean it turns legal. It stays illegal, right? You were never given permission to do that. Never given permission to do that. So just by selling it doesn't mean it has to go away. Okay, it has to go away. Conditional use. Let's say I just put that 1,000 homes in there, all residential. Now they use church in this residential. Maybe you do need a church there. But I was thinking more of if my closest fire department is 15 miles away, maybe as a conditional use in our neighborhood, we need like a police substation and a fire engine, right? An EMT. And even though we're zoned as residential, wouldn't we best be served by doing that, right? So we can put something there that would give it a conditional use permit, special permit that says, yes, you can be here for the protection of the neighborhood, right? Or if we decide that we need a church, we'd have to go to the county. They'd have to give us approval, all right? And we would have to do that. So special use permits, particularly for the public safety, they'll give those relatively easy. What they won't give easily is the next one, and those are variances, okay? Those are variances. Now, I inherited a piece of property, for example. I inherited this piece of property that's built on a big slope, and it's only got about 40 feet of flat land. And the zoning in there says that you have to have a 35-foot setback. Now, if I built my house, the house that I want to build on that piece of property, even at a minimum standard, and I set it back 35 feet, it would tumble down the hill. There would be no way I could build it. Let's just say, play along. So what I can do is I can take my hardship and I can go to the county commissioner and say, look, if I can get allowed to move up 10 feet from 35 to 25, I can build the house, okay? I can build the house. Otherwise, I can't do anything with this land. I'm stuck. Now, if they think that it's okay and it's not going to be too much of a struggle, they'll say, okay, we'll give you a variance for that land. But they do not have to. They don't have to. They could tell me, no, sorry, too bad. Find something else, graze cattle on it. But you're not going to build a house on it. All right. And then after I put a cow on there, they tell me it's not agricultural. But they would, in that particular case, they could tell me no. All right. So it says the owner may apply for a variance when a hardship makes it necessary to bend zoning laws in order to use property for the highest and best use. What's the highest and best use? If I left a big old empty lot on the corner of a neighborhood that had a bus stop like right outside on the road, can you only imagine how messy that empty lot would be if I didn't build a house in there and maintain it and do all that other stuff? It would be a catch-all, right? We'd have people hanging out. They'd be throwing garbage. It would be a mess. So we weigh the whole thing together. I just wanted 10 feet to move it front and I'll build a house on it, right? So you have to, show difficulty. You have to show that this is necessary. All right. So that's a variance. Okay. So we have legal non-conforming use. All right. We were there before. They changed the zoning, but they let me stay. We have an illegal use, which says that it was never zoned for this, so we can't use it that way. Conditional use permit. Again, maybe we're in a residential zone and we want a police station or a church or something else. All right. Maybe we need a school. Those are special permits that we're going to let them have it, right? And then variances, maybe we need to adjust what the rules are inside those zones, okay? Adjust what those rules are.
If you like this video, feel free to share it with a friend. For more real estate education content, please subscribe to the channel. From all of us at Seacoast Real Estate Academy, thank you for watching.